So, with that said, I would like to ask each one of the candidates to give you a brief introduction of themselves. And we'll start and do this in alphabetical order. We'll start with Janice on the end here. Janice?
I'm not used to the handheld one. I like the ones over the years. I am Janice Adams, and like Scott said, I am the incumbent. I started my career with the telephone company back when it was the telephone company, way before divestiture. And I retired from AT&T with 46 dedicated years of service. I worked in many departments during those 46 years, including human resources, call centers. I developed and trained goal-setting processes, facilitation of team meetings, managed more than 20 or 200 management and non-management employees. I accepted promotions and transferred 11 times in 9 years. So if you all need to pack a box, I know how to do that. I've been married for 23 years. My husband and I bought B1001, and we've lived here for 5 years. I was elected to the board in December of 21. The first year I served as the secretary, and currently I am serving as the secretary treasurer. I believe the most important positions on the board are the 3 inside owner residents. They are the ones who live here and experience the day-to-day interactions of the residents. Decisions need to be considered, and I pride myself on listening to the residents, gathering the information, researching as much as I can to make decisions based on the interest of the whole versus individual desires. Sometimes that does not make me a popular person, but I will always give you my reasons of why my decision was what I choose. Thank you.
I'm Tricia Morris. I moved in here in March of this year. I moved in to be my mother's personal caregiver. My mom moved in February of 2020, and shortly afterwards she had a stroke, so she needed somebody to be there for her, and that's me. So, excuse me. I lived in East Cobb. I grew up in East Cobb. I raised my children there. I was on a homeowners association for my neighborhood that had 300 homes in it. I was a recreation chair for 6 years, which entailed managing the pool, the tennis courts, and the common playground area. I had to get bids for certain projects as far as resurfacing the courts and the swimming pool, and anything else that came up with recreation. I started 2 businesses. One of them is a social media business, and the other one is a vacation rental business. I did those on my own as I saw a need for actually both of them, and those allow me to do the work from my condo, so I'm able to stay at home, do my work, and not have to leave the facility. My purpose for running really is, somebody asked me why I was going to run, and I had to think about it for a little bit, but my reason for running is I feel that the residents need a voice, and I would like to be that voice for the residents. So if there's anything that comes up, I would hope that I can give you an open and honest answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll do my best to try to get it for you. It's a little different for me living here, as I sometimes don't fit in, but I've made a lot of new friends, and everybody on my floor has been very welcoming, and it's just, I think this is a great place to live, and I'd like to see it continue to grow and develop into Sandy Springs. Thank you.
Hi. As y'all know, my name is Wright Hardy. I'm not Nancy Rogers. However, I am just be giving a little bit brief Can you hear now?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a little brief information about Nancy. It's on.
Get closer.
Okay. Nancy lives in A705, and for those of you who have already met with her, she has been on the floors along with Tricia, doing small meetings and groups. Also, since she is not here, when she comes back, I have little flyers up here if you would like to pick one up that has her email on it and her telephone number. You can email her any questions you may have, and she will also be meeting in the Magnolia Room, 2 dates down here when she gets back if you'd like to meet with her further. I will tell you a little bit that she's written up. I will not be answering questions because obviously I'm not she and I can't do that really. She has a degree, an undergraduate degree from the University of Georgia in journalism and public relations and a master's in city planning from the Georgia Institute of Technology. She is a Georgia born and bred resident. And for 40 years, she's lived in high rises, and the last 33 were down in Buckhead. And she has worked with corporate, resident, and nonprofit clients, and she has achieved a lot of goals with those. And she became, her career started as she was a newspaper editor, and that grew into major events in a lot of logistic things. And she worked with the Atlanta Olympic bid and Habitat for Humanity International and the U.S. Green Council building. I think I know I could go on with this, but I think that's about the time limit. So thank you all for being here. We all appreciate it very, very much.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, I'm Dan Castle. I'm an engineer with an MBA who, over the last 35 years, has owned and managed several different businesses. I bought my first 2 condos here in late 2018, and I bought my 5th and last earlier this year. I currently live in Blue Ridge, but I intend to move into B1002 someday. I've been involved with board activities for the past 3 years and with the Chase project for over 2 years. While I've been able to make some contributions, it has been frustrating. So I'm running for the non-resident position on the board. If you elect me, I intend to do, number 1, get you involved as much as you want to be involved. We have some tremendous talent in this building, and it's a shame we don't use it as much as we could. And the board really shouldn't even consider taking any action without consulting the owners and the residents to get their input and guidance. Number 2, I want to help share all the information that isn't confidential. We own MVT. Our bylaws allow us to see this information and copy it. We shouldn't be denied, sometimes by an attorney. Transparency is essential for a well-run association that we can have confidence in and be proud of. Number 3, I want to manage our association money like it's our own, because it is. We are a nonprofit association. Paying income taxes is never a good thing. And we must maximize our income from the PCC in order to minimize the monthly HOA dues that we're expected to pay. So if you appreciate what I have done and tried to do over the past few years, and agree with those 3 things I would like to focus on, I would appreciate your vote. And I'd like you to remember that everything I've done in the past and will do in the future is to help protect our MVT investment and the lifestyle that our residents have enjoyed for decades. So I appreciate your support and thank you for your consideration.
Hello, my name is Terry Stuckey, and I'm a 3rd generation Atlanta native.
Can you
Is this
hear
on?
Terry?
No.
Okay. It's on. It's on.
Hi, can you hear me? Oh, that's better. Hi, my name's Terry Stuckey, and I'm running as a non-resident owner. My mother is a resident here in Unit A 1014, and over the past 20 years, I've been involved with this community as I've brought new people here because this is such a terrific place, and many of my church friends, their family, my clients, and friends have been here. The people of Mount Vernon Towers are dear to me, and that's the reason that I'm interested in serving. By profession, I'm a 3rd generation real estate professional here in Atlanta. I've been serving Atlantans for over 41 years. I've also owned a luxury vacation beach rental business on the Georgia coast, which taught me a lot about the customer experience that I would hope to bring to this community. And so my reason for running is that I feel the people of Mount Vernon Towers deserve an attractive, peaceful, safe, well-run residence with low with low HOA fees. And I believe that for most of us, our home is a significant financial asset, and we want to protect the value of that asset. And the decisions that are made so far as repairs and improvements definitely affect the value of our assets. And as a real estate expert, I have a very keen understanding of how to improve value without increasing costs. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or need anything at all. And by the way, regardless of the election outcome, I am here to serve, and I'm always happy to help in any way possible.
Thank you. So our 5 candidates have told you a little bit about themselves and why they'd like to be here. Now, I would like to open the floor to any questions that you may have. You can ask a question that would be, and you'd expect a response from all, 4 candidates, because we know we have one that's out of the country. We can ask the question of 4 candidates, same question, or you can be specific and ask a question of an individual. So with that said, do we have any questions for the candidates?
This question is just because I'm just a little bit, I'm not sure exactly what who we are supposed to vote for. two resident, owners and one, I mean,
What we're voting for is two of the resident owners. There are two positions open for resident owners. And there's one position open for a outside owner or outside person. So we're looking to elect three people, two who live here and one who does not live here. Okay? That's good. Good question. Good clarity. Any other questions? Oh my gosh, there. Go ahead. Okay.
Hello, I'm Joanne Burgess. I live on the 10th floor. I'd like to ask Mr. Cassidy if he could tell us what the goals are for the condos that he uses, that he owns in this process. I'd like to know his goals for those properties, and I'd like to ask any of the other candidates if they could talk a little more specifically about the goals they have for the whole complex here.
Who was the specific question for? I didn't catch that.
Mr. Cassidy.
Dan? Okay. Go ahead.
When I bought the first two, my intention was to ultimately move in one and use the income from the other to pay the HOA fee. I live in Blue Ridge, where the medical facilities aren't the best. In fact, most of our medical care comes from Atlanta doctors that come up and visit once a week or month or something like that. So, long story, but I have prostate cancer, and I wanted to be close to my urologist that's a mile up the street. And so that's why I was looking for something in this area. And when I first visited here, I fell in love with the place and the people that I met. After that time, I told Jerry Bauer to keep his eyes open if any other two condos that had shared a common wall became available, that I would be interested in them also. And later on, there were two that were. And then the fifth one, I've always had my eye on living in B1002. It's a personal reason, but lo and behold, it became available one day, and I turned Jerry loose to see if he could buy it also. But the intent is still the same. My daughter will be moving down from Pennsylvania at some point and throwing me out of my house in Blue Ridge. So I need a place to go, which is going to be B1002, and join you and enjoy living here. I think this is a spectacular place, and it also happens to fit my medical needs, being close to where I need to be. So that's the strategy, I think, was the question.
The second half of the question was you wanted each one of the candidates to tell you more specifically about what they had in mind for Mount Vernon Towers.
Yes.
And let's do this again in alphabetical order. Janice, go ahead.
Sure. Hey, Joanne. My goals are to continue with the hard work that this board has put into place for the last 2 years. We have made some very challenging decisions, and we are accomplishing what we have set out to do. The next 2 years, I believe, is going to be very, very challenging with the chases, number one. It is got a huge price tag on it, and we need to get that done. And to date, we have not had a recommendation on how to go forward with that. So that is one of the biggest issues that we need to get accomplished next year. The other is that not only will the chases with a big price tag, you've got other building needs that need to be accomplished. And I know that on November the 30th, you will be hearing what the budget is for next year. So I'm not going to spill the beans on most of that, but there's still quite a bit of building necessities that have to take place. And that is my total goal, is to make sure that this building is a sound building for us to all live in and continue to love living here.
Tricia?
Well, I can't really comment on what the previous board has done to the point, because I don't know a lot of the details and everything that's involved as far as money and stuff goes. But my vision for moving forward, as far as what I would like to see, would be more communication. I think there's a lot of upgrades in addition to the building itself, but as far as the website and other communication entities that are involved in that. I would like to see some upgrades possibly in the dining room with, a POS system, so we have a better, clear idea of what we are serving and what's selling and what isn't selling, and we have a better track of the food that's going out. I'd like to see us, update the website to have possibly be able to pay online. And then Facebook, I think that there's a lack of community. We lack as a community in Sandy Springs, and I would like to see us more involved in the community of Sandy Springs, because we are here, we stick out, and a lot of people still don't really know what Mount Vernon Towers is. They may have been here for 20 or 30 years, and they drive by, and they're like, oh, that's a retirement home. They don't know that. So I think more communication with the community would be beneficial. That would also help PCC. PCC apparently is lacking, and I think from what I've heard, that's a big money to help bring more income in. So if we could help get more people into PCC and let people know what it's about, that may boost our revenue as well. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Excuse me, I laid out in my opening remarks the 3 areas that I want to focus on, but I would certainly endorse everything that Tricia just said. My daughter in Pennsylvania is the marketing director for a very similar facility to MVT. They have a waiting list of people that want to move in or that want to rent there. Why don't wait? And it's through the actions that Tricia just laid out that we could do that. Right now, I think, I'm probably a week or more out of date, that we have 2 places to sell and 1 to lease, or the other way around, but not many. But that's still not as good as having facilities, people that have toured here, and we can establish a list and say that if ever an opening comes up, that we can contact those people. That's what she does up in Pennsylvania. I also am very focused on improving the relations between owners and the board. Again, I laid out in my opening why I think that's so important, but it is. We own this place. The board is here to serve you, not you to serve the board.
Did you hear that? Mm-hmm. So, thank you all. Can you hear me okay? So, I appreciate much of what each of you had to say to offer. And we certainly do have a lot of talent here at Mount Vernon Towers. The question I believe Joanne asked is, what are the goals for the unit that each of us own personally? Can you hear me?
Yes, that would be very nice if you could go into that, and then what you see as your goals for the community as a whole.
Yes, so Joanne asked, what are the goals for the unit that we own personally, and what are the goals for the community as a whole? So for the unit that my mother and I own personally, the goal that I have is that that will be her home. Plan A is that it will be her home, and maybe in 20 years it will be a home for my husband and I, because we have been involved with this community and our church community, and this is home for us. Me as an Atlanta native, my roots to Sandy Springs go back to childhood, and my husband and I have raised our children here for 30 years. And so that would be great if someday this could be our home. In the event that something catastrophic were to happen and we would need to access the value of our asset, which is our home, I am keeping an eye to all those things that can be done without increasing cost to increase the home values or resale prices here at Mount Vernon Towers. And there are some things that have no cost and many things that are simply a matter of what choices are made when it comes to taking care of repairs for the common areas and for making improvements in the common areas. My goal for the community includes keeping the HOA fees low and continuing to make the wonderful experience that has brought us all here and keeps us all together, and make this community well-run, safe, and attractive. All these things really will provide the result that Dan is looking for, which is why are we not full with a waiting list? And I believe that part of the answer can be in marketing that can probably be done without cost and communication. There are a lot of things that can be done to accomplish that. So those are my goals for the community. And by the way, I very much support the idea of charging a fee when a home is sold and putting those funds in the reserve fund. I believe that this is a way that we can keep the HOA fees low and take care of the things that must be done, like those things that Janet is talking about. So, and at that time, because it's very important to keep the fees affordable, not only for those of us who are here now, and for, perhaps those of us who may have children who will want to live here, but this also increases our desirability and value in the marketplace. Everyone wants to have the best possible experience at the least possible cost. And we actually do have this. I believe we have this now in the metro area. And I believe that Mount Vernon Towers is truly a gem and offers the best value in the metro area. So I want to support and maintain that.
Thank you. Do we have additional questions? Yes, right here.
I did not understand what Terry said about if I were to sell my condo tomorrow, I would have to pay.
Can you speak in the microphone, because I cannot hear back here?
The question was, she wanted to have Terry expand upon the fact that she said that if she were to sell her condo tomorrow, that there would be a fee charged that money would go to Mount Vernon Towers. And Terry, can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes,
Explain
so when I was purchasing my condo, I saw that was one option that may have been under consideration, or one suggestion that may have been under consideration. And the thing is that we do have expenses that have to be met to maintain our building and to keep our property running well and safe. So how are we going to pay for it? Do we want to increase our monthly HOA dues? Do we want to levy assessments? Or would it be easier to take a fee at the time people sell their home so that they don't increase their living expenses while they're here? So, of course, this is, I agree completely with the idea that we need meaningful input from the residents, and the board should not be just making decisions on behalf of others, because everyone is an owner here, and it's our right to be involved in this process, and it's our right to understand what our options are, and let the board know how we want to proceed.
Do we have any other questions at this time? Anything else we have back here, Rita?
This one is for Janice. I wanted to know what the story was about the renovations of 3 and 6, and why, with such urgency, there wasn't much input from the floor residents.
Thank you.
Is it on?
Rita, can you just repeat the question?
I couldn't hear Rita.
What is the story about the renovations on floor 3 and 6? And why was there such urgency without much input from the residents of the floor? And I think it was kind of a surprise thing to them.
Sure. I'll be glad to talk about that. One of the goals that I had for this year, as well as all of the board members' goal, was to renovate 3 and 6. 3 and 6 was the last 2 floors that needed to be renovated, and it had been almost 4 years since the last 2 had been done. I can tell you, as a board member, I suggested and brought, on 3 different occurrences, I asked the board if I could work with Rita on renovating 3 and 6, knowing that the architect team, that's where that falls actually. The architect team has been working so hard on the chases that everything else seemed to be going nowhere. So I did in February, I did in May, and I did in August. And I was always told that no, that belongs in the architect team, okay? However, it's still my goal. So how do you make something happen? I even made a motion in August, and again, it was no, it falls in the architect team. However, since the architect team has been working so diligently on the chases that I was contacted on September 3rd by the chairman of the board, and he had reconsidered, and he asked me, in absence of Scott and the architect team, that if I would work with Rita on gathering material, suggestions, paint, lighting, anything that we could do for 3 and 6 to get it done this year. Now, the urgency around that was because come September, we knew that we had extra, I don't want to say extra, we had built up a reserve so much that we would need to pay a hefty tax Well, that's not a good business decision. That's not a good financial decision. We've been putting in money month after month after month, which is a good thing. Now that we have the money and the chases, that's what we were putting all this money away for, was the chases, and the chases were not going to get done this year. So we, instead of paying $250,000 in taxes, we said we need to spend the money that we have and then wait until we get the chases recommended to find out how we're going to pay for that. So we'll get back to the floors. On August 3rd, when I was asked to work with Rita, I jumped at the chance because that was one of my goals for this year. I thought the 3 and 6 had waited long enough. And Rita and I went out, we looked at many different materials, we got bids. I'm not taking anything away from Rita because she's worked very hard. After we looked at everything, got recommendations from the flooring, all of the materials, and I can say, which is an accomplishment, that the 2 floors that are being conducted right now and under construction, 3 and 6, that's going to be a cost of $180,000, where the last 2 floors that were renovated were $400,000 plus. Now this $180,000 did not just only include the lighting, the ceiling, the flooring, the paint. It also included having the laundry room and the trash room with the new flooring. It also included new furnishings. That was a plus, okay? Now, we needed to do that this year, and our goal was to have it done, hopefully, I think it's still on course for before the holiday season. And that's one of the reasons why it was such a push to have floors 3 and 6 completed and paid for so that we would not have a large tax bill. And that's not the only projects that we're trying to get accomplished this year. We've also purchased our 4 air conditioners on the top of the roof and had those installed. So we are trying very hard to, instead of paying $250,000 in taxes, and paying taxes is a good thing, just not $250,000. So we will probably end up with about a $50,000 tax this year, which is much acceptable with a $6 million facility as we have. I hope that answers your question.
They spend it out.
Thank you.
Wow. If you don't make a profit, it's just.
Any other questions? Questions? Any other additional comments from the candidates? Do you want to weigh in and say anything at this point in time? You got a question back there? Dan's got identified somebody? Okay, go ahead.
When do we vote? And how do we vote? Do you put it in our mailbox or mail it to us or what?
I'll answer that question. Okay.
On November 17th, you'll get your annual budget packet in your box if you live here, by email if you're on my list. If you don't live here, you'll get it mailed to you as well. In that packet will be the complete budget packet along with your proxy. If you plan to attend the budget meeting on December 11th, you will show up and you will get a ballot to vote. If you do not plan to attend that meeting, in your packet will be a proxy that you can turn in ahead of time in the event that you do not plan to be here for the annual budget meeting.
Okay. Dan.
I'm working with Brianna Hunt to get availability for this room and Hammond Hall so I can host floor rep meetings in the near future. This is a bigger group, hard to ask questions. I would like to get to know you better. I would like to get to know what your concerns are better. and I would like to have a better understanding as to see where you would like this place to go. So shortly, within a few days, I hope you will hear something from your individual floor reps about when those meetings are going to be held, so that we can sit and have a nice chat about what really should go on at Mount Vernon Towers. So I look forward to meeting more of you there.
Anybody else? Questions, concerns, ideas? Y'all want to go to bed? Everybody wants to go to bed, raise your hand. All right. Well, if there's no more discussion, nothing more from the board, go ahead, right? Yeah.
If any of y'all want any more information on Nancy, it's right up here, just come get one. Thank you.
I actually have a question.
Oh, Rita's got a question.
I don't normally attend these meetings. I've only attended one in the last 10 years, so this is my second in the last 10 years. But you know how rumors fly around Mount Vernon Towers, so I would like to address the candidates. So rumor is around Mount Vernon Towers that the majority of the candidates would like to replace me as the executive director. So I would like to ask the candidates why you might feel that way.
I'm sorry.
My question is, rumor around Mount Vernon Towers is the candidates would like to replace me as the executive director, so I would like the candidates to say why they may feel that way. Right. So I'm just asking the question.
Are you ready for an answer? I think you better be careful with rumors. Everybody that works for Mount Vernon Towers needs to deliver on their responsibilities. I don't know of any reason at this point that your job would be in jeopardy. But our jobs, if we're on the board, are in jeopardy, we can be voted out. If anybody, and I know there have been people here that have been asked to leave for one reason or another, that's one of the confidential things that I talked about that would not be shared with everybody. But I have not heard that rumor. I don't know where it's coming from. I can tell you personally, I don't have an issue with you, but everybody needs to do their job. That's just the way life is. And I'm not saying that you're not. I don't know where you're hearing that from, but I would be careful with rumors.
And I have not heard that rumor either. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk about unhappiness with the board, the current board, but as far as replacing you, that's a new one to me, to be honest. I don't know where that came from, but again, I guess as Dan said, a rumor's a rumor, and once something starts, it spreads like wildfire. So I don't know you well enough to not want you here. I don't know if that sounded badly or not, but you know, I haven't worked with you, so I don't know why I personally would want to replace you when I don't know anything about how you work except for seeing what you've done. And so far, most of the things that we've come up with, my concerns, have been addressed, maybe not the way that I wanted them, but it's been okay. So I'm sorry for that. I don't know where that came from. That's a new to me.
Rhea, I'm sort of the center of the gossip community for the residents.
Good to know, thanks.
What's she saying?
Oh, we got one back there. Hold on.
Is there presently a limit on the number of units in the entire Mount Vernon Towers that are up for rental, or should there be one, if there isn't one already?
Did everybody understand the question? No. Okay. What Bob was asking was that is there a limit on the number of units in Mount Vernon Towers that can be rental units? And the answer to that, I don't know if people here on the board know, on the cabinet know that, But the county's not. But the answer to that is that no, there is no limit. To install a limit, we would need to change the declarations. To change the declarations, we would need a 2/3 vote of the owners to approve that change. And that was one of the questions that the board has kicked around for the last couple of years, and we have not voted that in. That might be something that could be looked at and should be looked at over the coming time frame. Dan?
And I would just like to add to that I think the number now, and Rita would know better than I, is like 120 are rented of the 300. Is that close?
105.
105, okay. If there would be some restriction put on, let's say 105 is the max. When it came time to sell your condo, that would reduce the number of people that would be eligible to buy your condo, because you would not be able to sell to an investor because your condo would become 106, therefore over the limit. So unless there's some issue with renters that I'm unaware of, because I'll take my 6 people that rent in my 5 condos and I'll stack them up against anybody. They are outstanding people, a good asset to this community. But if there's some problem we're having with renters, there's other ways to solve that problem than to restrict the number of condos that can be owned and rented, because it really would end up hurting everybody if we did that.
No.
What?
I want to make.
Brian's got something here.
Yeah, no, I just want to make a comment about that comment. True, right? What Dan just said is true. However, what people should know, all right, that's untrue about that, is that when people want mortgages in order to buy in to a place like this, you have to have the number of renters versus owners makes a difference between whether you can qualify for a mortgage or not. Okay, so that doesn't affect anybody in this room because you're all here, right? But future prospects for our community are affected by the number of renters. And it doesn't mean that the renters are bad. I'm not saying that at all. Love the renters. But it's just a fact of the economics of mortgages and people wanting to buy in. So you should just have all the facts. It does lead me to a question, though. Okay, I've heard a number of things about building reserves. I think, Terry, you might have said something about whether or not we had considered an initiation fee or something like that.
A fee at the time
Right.
of sale. Excuse me, a fee at the time of sale, not an
Right.
initiation fee.
Right, and so those things happen in the marketplace, right? Those are ways for people who buy in to absolutely contribute to your reserve. Now, our reserve has grown from a low point of 800,000 to a high point right now of over 2 million. Okay, so I've heard a lot about, well, what's going on with the reserves? Well, that's what's going on with the reserves. And when we put out in front of everybody an initiation fee, folks like Dan rejected that. Okay? Rejected it. Now, he has his reasons, he can explain that. But what I'd like to do, in fact, at one point, he said, how many times do we have to tell you that we don't want that? He doesn't want that. Okay, so what I would like to hear from you guys is how each of you feel about an initiation fee that's levied on new owners to contribute to our reserves, which we need desperately because we have big bills. We have an old building. So I'd like to hear from every candidate how they feel about initiation fees.
I am absolutely against it. I did say how many times do we have to tell you, because we voted on that measure twice. So the second time was telling the board again that as owners, we don't.
Microphone. Microphone. I'm gonna turn it off.
I did make the comment about how many times do we have to tell the board, because we as owners voted on it twice. It isn't what Dan Castle wants. I have 5 votes out of 300. You all can outvote me 295 to 5 if you really want to do that. But that particular measure does add to the cost of selling your condo. When people come in here to buy a condo, they compare the total price it will take to buy one versus elsewhere. And if we add, I think the last time it was a 3% fee, I don't remember the exact title of it, they would add that 3% to all the other costs of buying a condo and then compare it with other places they can buy. So it's not the golden goose for Mount Vernon Towers. It can affect our sales.
Thank you, Dan. And I agree that buyers are looking at their total cost when they buy. My thought is that I would consider an initiation fee that was in line with what people are paying for other similarly priced condominiums in our market. Because I believe if we kept the association fee at the initiation fee at a level that was not excessive, it would likely not cause a buyer to decide not to buy here at Mount Vernon Towers. My preference as a homeowner is I'd rather pay a higher fee when I sell my home and liquidate it than I would initially. And I would personally consider looking at ways to keep the HOA fees low and looking at ways to avoid large assessments or any assessments being levied, because those increase the cost of living, and cost of living increases could be more painful now than a fee paid when we're on our way out. So also keeping the HOA fees low makes us more attractive to buyers, and that keeps the demand for our property higher and will allow us to be more competitive, and we will see the value. For most of us, a home is a significant financial asset. So as a real estate professional, I have an eye towards making decisions that will not cost extra, but will increase the value of my asset.
Trish, you want to go next?
I'm sorry, let me just finish by saying, I really like the idea that Dan has about having floor meetings and getting the input, because I believe as a board member, it's our fiduciary responsibility to vote what our homeowners want, not what we personally want. Sorry.
I don't know that I can answer that question because I don't really quite understand all of it. I understand initiation fee, I get that. But I don't know what it's gonna do to, like, how much it's gonna be. I think I would need more information on it, on whether or not I can vote on it. If it was gonna be a, 10% increase or something, and it made our property values go up, or made the cost of our condos be uncompetitive to the market, then maybe I would say no, but I can't answer that legitimately without knowing any, or doing any more research on it, so, sorry.
All right. I believe that this discussion needs to be not just in a hole. I think you need to open up that hole so that you can understand why initiation fee would be good for Mount Vernon Towers, because it would be for the buyers buying in. And we know that we are under the area amounts already. It's probably not good for an investor that has 5 units. But however, if you have a unit that you want to sell, and I believe it was 2% last year that we tried to get that passed, and that 2%, all of that money of the sale of the property would go into the reserve. Now, we've talked about reserve quite a bit tonight. That reserve is going to help with paying for the chases. That's the big dollar amount that we have. If you had that reserve money built up from the buyers coming in, then it's going to be less on the homeowners with an assessment that possibly is needed to get the chases done. So you can't just say, I agree with it or I don't agree with it without knowing all of the facts of what that's going to do for Mount Vernon Towers homeowners.
Can I say something else too? On our floor meetings, we had a lot of people ask questions about if you had, if we wanted an investor to come in and how many units they could buy before there was like a cut, like would we allow somebody to buy 20 units or something? And to that point, if somebody, personally I think there should be don't get me wrong, but there should be a limit as to how many somebody can purchase, because if they start purchasing 20, 25, 30 units, then it becomes more of a landlord situation and not and more of an apartment type situation. So if there was something to come up and however that can be changed, I would agree on possibly putting a limit onto the number of units one person can own. Whether it's 5, 10, I personally would not like to see somebody own any more than 10 in here, but 5 possibly is an okay number.
But as you, and just to comment on that, as you increase the number of investors, then it's going to impact the voting, because if there's more investors that rent or lease, then you're not going to have the homeowners, because the homeowners has invested. They have invested money financially to be here, to be their home. An investor is here to make the dollar off of the renters. And if we want to keep this as a home for us, then if we go over that 2/3%, then we are nothing but a rental facility.
We got a question right here.
We got one in the front.
No, right here.
Go ahead.
As everybody knows, this is a very unique system with condominiums for the...
Mic on. The mic closer.
I'm sorry. as everybody knows, everything is very unique in this. There's no other company or around that has this kind of situation. But I will tell you this, that if you have a condominium in the real estate market, you have a limit of rentals. And that is originally because rentals are looking for their almighty dollar, and we, as homeowners, are looking for the place as such in our home. And so I was in the real estate business for 37 years. And
Bring the mic up, bring the mic up.
I was in the real estate business for 37 years, and every time I went into a condominium area, I found out how many there were rentals. And the more rentals you have, the less opportunity you have buyers.
Thank you.
Point of fact. What I was gonna say, everyone's talking about what they've done. I have been licensed in 3 states at the same time, Tennessee, Virginia, and Atlanta, Georgia. And I was also the second mortgage appraising for Associates Financial. There is no way ever that we would put a fee on a buyer. You could conceivably lose your buyer because they are trying to buy at the best price that they could possibly get it. I absolutely feel that if you're going to have a fee and it's going to be placed anywhere, it should be placed on the sale of the place, not on the buying. That's just, I feel strongly about that.
Everyone follow that conversation?
At one point,
Yes.
at one point, that they were supposed to be meeting November 30th, now you said December 11th. Are they the same or are they different?
November 30th is the budget meeting. December 11th is the annual owners meeting.
Somebody said budget.
I would just like to remind people that having an initiation fee is not unusual, it is not wrong, it is something that is done all around us, and we are losing out by not voting to have it.
The more money we can make in other ways, number one, an initiation fee, the less that anyone would have to, well, not anyone, the less that an owner would have to pay if there's ever an assessment, bottom line.
Any other comments?
I have one more comment.
Okay, Brian.
Sorry. Folks in this room need to know where they are. That came about because of initiation fees. Right? It's just a question about initiation fees. Should we do that or shouldn't we? We got the opinions of the board, of the candidates. Right? I appreciate those comments. But know where you are. Okay? You are at Mount Vernon Towers. You are in the city center.
Right.
You have a theater, a facility, bar none, that is right here. You have a park that is right across the street that's about to be built. This is a gem. Okay?
Brian, we're
And-
living in the country club.
I'm sorry, what?
We live at the country club here.
Well, the point being is that I've heard somebody say, well, hey, we shouldn't put that on a buyer. Buyer should want to be here. We might need to market better, right? And so this goes to you guys. You are the candidates. You guys will be the board next year. It's really important how you think about those things and how you communicate it to these people, because they live here. They are in a gem. We have an old building. You guys need to communicate to these folks how you will make this work well for their benefit. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to take over, but you guys need to communicate that. And I'm sitting back here going, oh my God, you know, what am I even hearing? You guys own this place. Dan said it. I agree with Dan. Imagine that. You guys own it.
Yeah,
You make this work for you. That's it.
and I don't have the figures in front of me. Rita, you might know this. How much money has been, how many units have been sold for the amount? What was it in the last meeting?
I believe a little over 6 million.
6 million. Now, if there was 2% of $6 million, some CPA,
Probably
tell me
about
what that would be.
Maybe about 160.
That what?
Maybe about $160,000.
So that would be $160,000 that would be put in the reserve. That $160 goes towards the payment of the chases. I mean, I'm only trying to help you understand what that would do for Mount Vernon Towers.
Well, let's change topics on
Wait,
this,
let
I
me
think.
say something on that. I think the value, we all know the value of the property. The thing is I had a unit that was for sale for 2 months and did not get one person to look at it. And I marketed it myself and still didn't get anybody. I finally got it on the Mount Vernon website. Nobody from anywhere around came to look at my unit, and which scared me because what was I going to do? I'm paying 3 HOA fees, and I was getting stuck and scared that I was going to not be able to, keep. Finally, I was able to sell the unit, but my point to that is nobody's coming by because nobody knows that we're here. The marketing in here is not very good, and we need to get the word out that this is where we are. This is a great place to live. And people need to be able to come in here and see what we have to offer them. And you can't do that if they don't know anything about us. No communication as far as Facebook, no website, there's no nothing. So that is a huge thing to help, not necessarily our value, but it will help people see that who we are. We're lost. We are on number 10 on the Google search. Nobody even knows. You can't find us. So anyway, that's fine.
This is interesting to talk about and all that, but I think what we want to really hear is to find out what the candidates are doing and what the candidates can bring to Mount Vernon Tower. The issue of an initiation fee, yes, we should discuss it. Yes, it should be fully explained. Yes, maybe we ought to vote on it again. But right now, we want to know about the candidates. So, any other questions or comments that we need to have? Any questions for the candidates? Questions for candidates? Dan?
I just wanted to comment that Terry and I are going to team up and hold these 4 rep meetings together so you could meet both of us, the outside people, at the same meeting instead of having to go to 2 different ones.
Thank you. Thank you both. That's a great idea.
Thank you, Dan. By the way, if anyone would like the letter I prepared for all of you, I have copies here. You're welcome to pick one.
Thank you.
All right.
Anything else? Well, we've got a good meeting. Took about an hour and 10 minutes. And we will be back again November the 18th. It's a Saturday at 2 o'clock. So set your calendar and join us again at 2 o'clock November the 18th in the Sun Porch. Thank you.